Well, hello and welcome to the Charles Billingsley podcast. We are so glad to have you with us. And of course, with us is the name, the man. I don't know what you say, but it's Charles. It's CB.
Yeah. Hi. And there's Adam.
Hi.
Hi.
Here.
How's it going?
Yeah.
Bearded Adam.
I mean,
Always bearded.
I'm never unbearded.
No, yeah, I've never actually seen you unbearded. Well, I take that back. When you were in college, I saw you unbearded.
I did see a picture of you and Liesel.
Yeah,
when you
with
were
bleached hair.
Yeah.
He
Yeah,
was Beach
yep.
Boy then.
Yep.
Now he's kind of more redneck guy. Yeah.
Yeah,
From the beach to the redneck.
He wears it well. He wears it well.
Oh, absolutely. Wears it
Very
both
good.
well. Whatever Adam wears, he wears it well.
And you guys, for as much as you're traveling, look fantastic. So I just want to say,
Thanks. I need liposuction. But other than that, I'm good.
I don't know that travel has a bearing on that.
you know, I like this that we sit here and we record this with desks that come up to about here. So
Yeah. It hides things. So today, it's going to be a great day. We have a very special guest. He's been a friend of mine since, I don't know, the News Song days. That would be, actually, I think I even met him when he was in Truth. But this is way back to the 90s, like early 90s.
yeah.
And he's probably in my top 3 favorite Christian singing voices of all time.
What?
I think he's one of the greatest singers you'll ever hear. He still sounds exactly the way he did 30 years ago. It's disgusting. He looks the same way he did 30 years ago. He hasn't aged one single bit. He's been worship pastor at the Church on the Move for years and years. For 20 years, he's been there. Now he's there in a little less capacity, but still deeply involved. He has a podcast called 1 Degree with Andy.
1 Degree of Andy.
Who I was on, of Andy, thank you. And I was on there last week with him. We recorded one with him. But most people, I think, probably still know him from For Him. He was one of the For Him guys. So he would.
How many were there?
Well, there was 4.
Oh, okay.
And he would be
who were
one
they
of the For Him.
Who were they for?
Well, they were For Him, meaning the Lord.
Okay.
It was a capital H. For
Capital H.
Him, meaning Jesus. But he was one of the 4 For Him. So without him, there would only be 3 Him. So
It's
anyway,
going to be a long podcast.
let's bring him on. He
Yeah.
doesn't have a whole lot of time. You know why?
No.
Because he's about to do a podcast with Steve Green, another one of my favorite voices. So come on, let's bring him on. Andy
All right,
Chrisman, everybody.
Andy.
Hello, Andy.
What's happening, guys? Man,
It's
that
great
was quite an
rejoicing.
intro.
There's people cheering.
Yeah, we love it.
You made me a
Well,
fan
you
of
know.
myself there.
Well, of course.
Wow.
You should be, Andy. We are thrilled to have you on this morning, buddy. Thank you for
Yeah,
joining
it's
us.
good to talk to you again. Yeah, we just connected. You just said it. We just connected a couple weeks ago, and you're going to be on my podcast in just a few weeks. So
I love it. Well,
get ready, world, for that.
And listen, it's true when I say I'm always been a huge fan of your singing, but not just that of just you. You've always been so kind to me. I laugh because we used to run into each other in the Atlanta airport. Like
Mhm.
it was almost a weekly thing. It kind of got
Yep.
comical.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and we'd be on the same plane, just kind of sitting across the aisle from each other. Yeah, that happened all the
Yeah.
time.
They'd
Yeah.
be going to the big event and I'd be going to some, a tiny little event, 40 people there. But hey, we were there and we were ministering and having a great time.
Some things never change.
That's right.
That's actually, I still do that. So, Andy, tell us a picture of your life these days. I know you're doing a ton of consulting. I know you're doing a ton of work with churches and individual worship pastors. You got this podcast. What all's going on?
Wow. So I'll just kind of take you through a little timeline of what I've been through over the last 20 or so years. I got off the road. I felt like God had called me off the road from Christian music and For Him in the late 90s, and it took about 7 years for that to actually happen. By the time I just felt God say, I want you in the church. I want you in the local church. And so we started winding down For Him in the early 2000s and did our last tour in 2006. And then I started leading worship in Orlando at a church that I helped start there back in 2000, moved to Tulsa to Church on the Move in 2005, and basically just did that full time. I didn't do any touring. I didn't do recording. I didn't do anything associated with the Christian music world. And then in 2020, some stuff happened in 2020. I don't remember what happened. in the world. But
Oh,
one of the things that
there was a
happened
pandemic.
oh, there was?
Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah.
right.
It's
Oh, that's
you
right. The
remember
world
seeing everybody in
stopped.
masks and everything.
The
Everything
world stopped right when I quit my job at Church on the Move and decided to go into business for myself. That was really, thanks, Lord. But no, He took good care of me, and since then, since 2020, you mentioned it. I do a lot of consulting for churches. I walk with worship pastors. I have a ministry with our mutual friends Michael Neal and Mark Harris called the Worship Table, where we gather pastors from around the country and just pour into them and encourage them, refresh them, help them continue their journey. But then I also sing somewhere every weekend, lead worship somewhere every weekend at a church. And I have my podcast, One Degree of Andy. You mentioned that. Thank you very much. I also have a radio show called Worship with Andy Chrisman, which, Charles, you've been on. You've been on that as well.
Yes.
And that's on 500 stations around the world. It's on every weekend. And
That's awesome.
do a little producing, a little writing, and just, I don't know, God just keeps dropping little things in my
everything.
path. So yeah, I'm as busy as I ever have been.
I love it. Hey, you know what? I've never asked you this. What's your hobbies? What do you do for fun?
Oh, golf,
Little producing,
basically.
little
Yeah, in
writing?
fact, you can, I was on the golf course yesterday afternoon, and later this afternoon I'll be on the golf course again. I love that. And you mentioned, traveling before we got going, and you and I we didn't realize it. We were in the same town on vacation together and didn't even know it.
I know.
I'm
We should've
surprised we
gone
didn't run into
golfing.
each other. Yeah,
I know.
so I love to travel. My wife and I just love to travel, and we go somewhere every few months, and so we're empty nesters, and so we have a lot more freedom than we used to. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So let's go back here. Let's talk about the For Him days.
Okay.
I got to know something. What
What do you wanna
is
know?
your favorite song that you ever recorded in For Him? Like
My favorite song
Where There Is
I ever
Faith. Was that was For Him, right? Not Truth.
Which
Where There
say
Is
that again?
Faith.
That's for
Where There's Faith is
Where
for
There's
him.
Faith
Yeah, that was
is
our
for
very
him.
first
Yeah.
single.
Very,
it's
very
very
first one, and it just happened to have been humongous. So I know that has to have a special place in your heart.
It does. It does. And a little plug for my podcast. The guy that wrote that song, Billy Simon, is going to be on an episode here coming up very soon.
Oh, cool.
Or probably by the time this airs, it will be. You can go listen to it on my podcast site. But Billy talks about writing that song. He didn't want to write it. He was kind of forced into it by his publisher to write a song for Sandy Patty, and he was just like, I don't write Sandy Patty songs, and so he wrote it begrudgingly, and then God just birthed this song through him that's just kind of has stood the test of time. But yeah, I would say Where There's Faith is a big part of my story, and I love it. It means more to me every year and every time I sing it, because there's depth to it. I don't know. It just when I recorded it at 23. I hadn't gone through a lot in my life, and the main lyric is, there's a voice calling, keep walking, you're not alone in this world. I mean, that was a great thought to me back then, and I believed it. But now at 58 years old, losing so many people in my life, going through difficult situations, just all the life lived, that lyric comes back to me in so much of a deeper way. And again, go listen to the podcast that I did with Billy Simon. He's got an incredible story of how that lyric has come back on him again at this time in his life. So it's a timeless thing. I think there's songs, like Chisel Meets a Stone, which Billy also wrote, Made Me Write About, which Billy also wrote, Future Generations. We sang that at our very good friend Don Cook's funeral just a few months ago, and that he co-wrote and produced for us. That's got a very special place in my heart. So, there are songs, I don't know, they're kind of like kids, pick your favorite kid, pick your favorite grandkid.
I was not at Don's service, but I heard that they even did one of my songs, In the Room.
Yeah.
That's one that they did. So y'all were able to sing at that. I wanted to go. I was on the road with a Women of Joy conference that weekend, but what a great producer he was, man. What a legacy of songs.
Just a legend in the industry. And, even having a rebirth in his career with our friend Jay DeMarcus from Rascal Flatts, and was working with him and producing and writing, and our friend Dave Clark, our good friend Dave Clark, started writing Southern gospel music with him, and they started having some big hits again. So yeah, it's interesting, not to sidetrack the conversation, but I think there is if you stick with this business long enough in music, there's always a weathering of the storm season of our lives where you're young and you're full of energy and you're full of momentum, and you get all these opportunities like you and I both did for so long, and you try to keep up with the demand. But then there comes a time when you're kind of like, oh, where's the audience now? What do I do next? You go through a time of raising your family and doing some different things. But if you stick with it long enough and you don't give up that calling and that gift in your life, it does come back around seasoned. There's a seasoning and a maturing that you can bring to the table again in the later years. And I see that with so many different people. I see that with you. We saw it with Don. We see it with Dave Clark, great songwriter. Billy Simon even's writing new music, and I love where he's at in his life. And the same with me. God's just continuing to use me in a deeper way than He ever has before. But I still get to sing. I still get to create, and it's. But again, going back to those songs, the album that I'm stuck on right now, the 4M album, and I still do go back and listen to our albums. I think they're fantastic. I'm a fan of our early work, and I think our Walk On album is the one that I'm listening to a lot right now. There's a song on called The Waiting that I sing. I think it's probably one of my favorites that I've ever been a part of. So I don't know, kind of all over the road there, but yeah. I think that answers the question.
And sorry, you guys jump in, but I got one more question for you before they jump in. Do you sing for Him songs when you're on the road?
I do.
By yourself?
Yeah, I do. I mostly lead worship because that's my heart. That's my calling right now. But for Him's such a part of my story, and those songs they tell a story of worship in a way and what God's done through me. And so everywhere I go, I have to sing Where There's Faith. I have to sing Future Generations. And people want that. People ask of that because it's part of the. It's just part of the story of what I've been about, and people still remember them. I mean, most churches I go to, the worship pastor or the senior pastor will go, "Hey, anybody remember For Him?" And I would say half the crowd's like applauding, and you can kind of see their faces light up. And so, I again, it's part of my journey. It's part of who I am. So I'm going to sing those songs to the day I die.
Everybody asked me to do Rise My Love.
Yes, they do.
And I'm like, no. See, here's the truth.
I could do Eddie's part.
It was way too high. Yeah, you could
got
do
like
Eddie's
8
part.
key changes. It's like,
yeah. And the high D
love.
flat at the end was always a little bit much for me. So I would just fake it and look at Billy as he would sing that note. So I'm like, no, I kind of need the
as
group.
he sat there reclined, no effort whatsoever to sing the high D flat.
Yeah, something about songs like Arise My Love that just doesn't feel right with tracks and just a solo,
Oh, come on. Give the people what they want, Charles. Quit being selfish.
You're killing me, man. So what you look like you got a question on the tip of your tongue.
Not to age other people, I think I was probably 12.
Oh, shut it. I knew you were going to play that.
Here we go.
Like, can you turn his mic off?
Yeah.
My
I
parents.
was probably 12. I walked into, it was a Zondervan's or a, Lifeway. You pick it, and picked up Basics of Life.
Oh, they used to have storage.
They used to have storage. The Basics of Life CD that I played.
Yeah, Basics of Life.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know you guys were in Truth together, and then there was For Him.
Right.
How did all that come together?
So if you know the history of Truth, if you know anything about Truth, Truth was a transient group, I guess is a way you could say it, but they replaced people continuously.
Not every 2 years or so.
Yeah. So typically there were 4 male singers, 4 female singers, so 8 singers on stage, typically.
And wow,
For-
what a legacy of singers that came out of that group, man.
Oh my gosh. Not even that, but just the players,
Yeah.
you know, there was a 4-piece rhythm section, 4-piece horn section. So let's talk about some of the people that came out of Truth. Natalie Grant, of
Karen
course,
Fairchild.
yeah, Karen Fairchild, and of course
big
you,
time.
Charles, and For Him came out of there. At me, a lot of people from Avalon.
Alicia Williamson.
Williamson.
Oh yeah, lots of
Steve
Avalon
Green.
folks.
You talked about. I'm going to
yeah.
have him on the podcast.
That's right. Steve
Coming up,
Green,
Steve
was,
Green
in
was
Truth.
part
I
of
didn't
that.
know that. I knew he was in Whiteheart also. Remember
Yeah.
I
Whiteheart?
remember Whiteheart.
Whoa.
Yeah.
But he got it. Yeah, he got his
Steve
start
Green
in
sang lead
Truth.
for-
Steve
Yeah,
Green
started
with
in
the
Truth.
Whiteheart?
Yes.
He had a little stint in Whiteheart.
He did the very 1st Whiteheart album.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and he was part of the
He
New
said
Gaither vocal
Whiteout.
band.
The Whiteout album.
Yeah, they covered up another.
Anyway, so there was a rotational basis in Truth, and you would, Roger Breland, who ran the group, would audition people, and it's about 2 years was probably max, because Truth was on the road 24/7. I mean, it was literally.
They never stopped.
I mean, we do 300 shows a year. And that's not exaggerating.
And the pay was so
Or
good
more.
that people would make their riches in Truth and then move on.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You were in Truth, right?
No, I was
You weren't?
actually
Oh,
asked
okay.
to. He asked me to be, but that's about the same time I went with New Song.
Okay.
So
okay.
I almost went with Truth, which would have been right behind you, I think, when you guys left.
That's probably right. That's probably right. Well, yeah, Russ was in. That's what I'm thinking.
Russ Lee
in.
was
Russ
for
Lee was
sure.
in Truth.
Oh yeah,
Right.
He
So
sang
he
Living
came in
Life
right after
Upside
we
Down.
left. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
okay. So anyway, in about a 6-month span in 1987, the four of us, the four guys, all came into Truth in different months in 1987, and that's how we met, and we became the four guys that sang together in Truth. And Alicia Williamson was one of the girls, and then there were several other girls that were there, and then. We just developed a sound over a few years being together. We just kind of developed a sound. While there were other people in the group that moved on and were replaced by other people, we were consistent. And so we kind of got this reputation in Nashville as the four guys in Truth.
Well, and you had
would do
playing
albums.
drums was Mike Childers and Mark Childers, and they became
Mark
part
Childers
of your
was on
band,
bass,
didn't
who's
they?
now with Carrie Underwood. Yeah,
Carrie Underwood, yeah.
Mhm.
Mike was on drums.
Yeah. Dana Capolino played guitar. Who's with Lee Capolino now, who's with in Point of Grace. Dave Cleveland played guitar with us for a
monster.
long time. He was
Who just played on your latest album.
Yes.
yeah.
Plays on
He's a
all my
monster.
albums. And every other album that ever was
He
created.
plays on
Yeah,
every
exactly.
album.
Wow.
So,
what a
yeah,
You
journey.
so
started
we-
in 87 with Truth. 87 was when you started. And how long did
That's
you
right.
go with Truth?
So the four of us, if we talk about For Him, the four of us did 1,000 shows together with Truth
Wow.
before we ever did a concert as For Him. Isn't that crazy?
So that was what, 6 months?
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much. Yeah,
About-
3.5
about
years.
the way their
So-
schedule was.
So in 87 was when we started in Truth, and then in 90 was when we broke away as For Him. And we recorded our first album in January of 1990. And then that first single, Where There's Faith, I think went #1. And I'm looking at my plaques. I know you've got this same wall somewhere, Charles, where you see all your songs.
Well, the things that are gold circles behind you, I don't know what that is. Are those gold records?
There's
I've
one
got a
platinum
couple
up
of plastic ones.
You could
I've
dip them in
got,
gold.
I could dip some in gold just for fun. Sure.
Look at
there. Yeah,
this.
anybody can do that, right?
Anybody can do that.
So there
yeah,
it is.
so-
July 2nd, 1990. I see it right there. Was when Where There's Faith went #1, and then we left the group in August of 1990 and went out on our own. So that's the
Well,
story.
I guess so. You had a #1 song. It's time to get on.
Perfect.
It's time to
So
go.
Roger was really a big part of launching you guys, wasn't he? Roger
He was. He
Breland.
helped sign us. But here's the thing:
Mhm.
Roger knew that he wasn't going to keep us forever.
Right.
So it's almost like a a a pro franchise, like a pro sports franchise, you know, you don't, you know, you're going to lose a player, you might as well trade them,
Mm-hmm.
right? Do
That's
something.
right.
And that's what Roger did. Was he went to Benson, who that was the label Truth was on, and just said, hey, I've got these 4 guys and they're probably going to go do their own thing, or they're each individually going to do their own thing. Why don't we see if we can sign them? And he became our manager and booking agent. The Truth offices did for a couple of years. And that was kind of a partnership we had with
great
them.
start. Yeah. Was John Breland, his son, doing the booking and things for you?
Yep, John was our booking agent.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Wow. You know, it's amazing when I look at just the history of Christian music, how you can look back now and there are certain individuals who just been doing it and they're still doing it now, 30 some odd years later. We just did a podcast with Sandy Patty, and she, you know, it's just amazing. She's still going, man.
Still
going strong. And and then, you know, you look at some others who've just kind of either because of life situations or maybe marriage and kids and different career paths or whatever. But some of them, you know, who were huge, now we just don't hear anything from them because they've either moved on or done whatever. What do you think is the secret, Andy, to longevity, not just in the music business, but I think in anything that you do?
Well, you got to love what you do. You got to, it's one thing I talk to worship pastors about. I think you should love your gift. I mean, it is a gift. It's something that God, I believe, predestined each one of us to do something in the kingdom of God, you know, whether it's in church ministry or whether it's, you know, to do something for his glory. And for those of us who became full-time musicians and were able to make a living at it, I think it's a gift that God gave us to proclaim his glory. So I always took that very seriously. I never wanted to minimize the gift. And I see, you know, that's what I see a lot of people do is when they don't see a measure of success that they hoped for. And then sometimes they just take that gift and throw it away and go, well, then I don't want it. If it can't be that, I don't want it. Instead of going, well, there's a purpose for this gift. Let's figure that out. And I think the people who have longevity have done that. They've gone, okay, this is a gift and it's unusual. And I think it's beautiful. I think it's very rare. I mean, it is a rare gift to be able to want to get up in front of people and perform for them and then be able to do it at a high level. It's a very rare thing. So I've always treasured that. So by treasuring it, I know God's got a purpose for it. So why ever let it go? And I don't know. I think there's a lot of answers to that question, but I think the people, again, my opinion is the people who figured out that this is just how God created me, and I'm going to figure out a way to keep using it. Those are the ones who have longevity, and then connected to that, I think God just continues to open doors for people who want to do it and recognize that this is a gift from Him. And we have to keep it strong. We have to stay healthy. You know, we kind of, you know, and even people who kind of ruined their lives for a season. And God uses that. There's a redemption to that. Again, go listen to my podcast. Just about every artist I have on has been through a failed marriage or went through a crisis of drug and alcohol abuse, or they just made some bad choices and they, you know, they just went into hiding for a little bit, and then God restored them and gave them new relationships, and they rediscovered that gift again, and they're using it for His glory. I think it's just, you know, just don't give up.
I love that. And, you know, I think part of the reason so many artists go through so many difficult days, especially Christian artists, is because you're living in this tension of it's about me, but it's not about me. It's about the Lord, but oh yeah, I still have to post online, and the record cover's got my face on it, and I got to do an interview about my songs and my radio play and my this and my this. And so there's this constant tension, and I think it's a really difficult tension to balance. How do you find that balance, Andy?
No, that is the whole thing. I mean, honestly, is what's in it for me. That's what you have to balance. And if you're called to this, well, obviously, you know, down deep, it's for the glory of God. But we want what we want. I mean, it's, you know, I think, you know, you and I talked about this when we chatted earlier on. I don't know if it made the podcast or not. Maybe it was off air. But Charles, you and I talked about this spirit of Lucifer idea that, you know, that Lucifer was a created being, a glorious created being of God and Lucifer's gifts were the arts to declare the glory of God and bring glory and worship and music and creativity to the throne room of God and to perform. But the problem with Lucifer was he wanted it for himself. He wanted the glory. He wanted to be recognized. He wanted people to say, "Well, you're the great one, not the one that you're proclaiming." And that's the spirit I think we carry and have to manage, is when we see our face on an album cover, or see our face on a big screen, our voice is amplified. We've got all these people around us, handlers, that are trying to make us look as beautiful as possible, and we get now with social media.
And by the way,
everything
thank
has
God
to
for airbrush and makeup, because
Amen,
it's
brother.
helped me out on many occasions.
Amen.
Go ahead. But anyway, go ahead.
But look at social media with all the filters and everybody's posting their highlight reels. I mean, it's all about how good can we look, and I think that is a drug that we can get hooked on. Is look how amazing I am, and if you don't balance that with, well, wait a minute, I'm just a servant, and I'm here to do whatever God tells me to do and give Him the glory. Then that's what the artist wrestles with, and that's why. I mean, let's just be honest. Most artists are weird. Most artists are a little off kilter, just because there's that struggle happening all the time. And it's why I think we see so many artists just implode and make really, really bad decisions. I mean, not just Christian artists, but look at the secular artists. I mean, they're the ones that are the weirdest. And I think that's what we carry. That's the burden we carry if we're going to get into this business. I don't know about you, Charles, but when I coach a lot of young artists, and I have a lot of young artists come to me saying, "Hey, I want to, will you help me? Excuse me, will you help me to find my career as an artist?" The first thing I do is try and talk them out of it.
Yeah,
because I know how hard the road is, and I know what the downside of it is. And I never encouraged my kids to go the artist route. They talked about it because they saw me do it and they saw that I was successful at it. But I'm like, I don't know that I want you to have this burden in your life. So I try to talk people out of as much as I can. But then there are some that you're just like, well, yeah, you're blessed. Yeah, you got that extra gift. So now let's walk this out.
I don't know what else you can do.
That's
yeah,
right.
I mean, we have a lot of students at Liberty that they're in music or worship because it's a hobby, but there's a difference between a hobby and a calling. I think.
Right.
And it's the ones who are really called that I think will absolutely find a way, some way, shape, or form to do this.
You don't know it when you're young, but it's the calling that keeps you when everything goes wrong, and when you lose your vocal cords or.
Well, mine were just injured. I still
Do you have them? Still have those?
Yeah, they're
I
still
thought you had
there.
a transplant. Okay. But see, it's the calling that holds you when family's hard, when the road's hard, when people aren't calling like they used to, when you don't have as many followers as you want on social media. It's the calling, because all the other stuff doesn't matter.
That's right.
I can't remember any of the specifics around the memory I'm going to recall, but it was we were praying before to do an event, and it was for some, I can't remember if it was something we did, but anyway, the guy praying said, this night is about, and I can't even remember who it was. Lord, we know this night is about Andy, so we'll just use Andy. But Andy's really all about you, and so that's okay. And that stuck with me for years, because it's okay for something to be about me as long as I'm all about God. And
so that is the trick. So the trick you have to learn, trick's not a great word, maybe it's a skill or a discipline you have to learn. The discipline you have to learn is, again, you're gifted, we're bright lights, right? We attract with our voices, with our talent, with our musical abilities, we attract. And the discipline is to attract people to us so that we pass them off to Jesus and get out of the way. It's a dodge, right? It's I'm gonna attract you, and then dodge out of the way so that you keep moving towards the throne room of God and have an experience with Jesus. And that's the dance, that's a discipline. And to know that I'm not the ultimate destination. And that's what we run into is we believe at some point we're the ultimate destination. And like you said, if the crowds stop coming and we don't have the social media followers, then we think, well, then I'm not as attractive as I used to be. And we get down on ourselves instead of going, no, I'm still going to attract people so that I can hand them off to Jesus.
We don't have much more time, but I do have one question because I love to hear you've sung with so many people. You've had so many people that you played with. You've met so many people along the way over these decades. Who has had the most impact on you as a person?
You mean besides Charles?
I was going to say that, but I thought I'd let you say that.
I'm easily in his top 10,000.
That's saying something for him.
Oh, wow. There are some people that I go back to and, they have a very special place in my heart and in my walk. Steve Green's one of them. Steve, being on the Young Messiah tour with him, I didn't get to tour with him much, but being on the Young Messiah tour with him was incredible. Just seeing his countenance and his walk and his discipline was very inspiring to me. Wayne Watson's one of those guys who he and I just had a special personality connection. We're very similar personalities. And, he's about 10 years older than me. So he helped me to see some things that I hadn't seen yet and to anticipate because of my personality, what he saw in me. And he's kind of like an uncle, a friend / uncle / mentor to me. Michael Omardian, it was a great, somebody that was a safe space for me to be able to sit down and talk to and go to anytime. Once we started working with him and he kind of became For Him's main producer towards the back half of our career. No, he's not. He does a little bit here and there, not on the scale that he used to, but he's almost 80 years old and, he's had his career and he's happy just to kind of be in his studio and create when anyone ever needs him to. But still a very dear friend. Roger Breland, was a guy I could always go back to and ask questions to. I think those are the people that first come to mind that have been very important in my life. And I think God placed them at very specific times in my career to say, hey, don't give up. You're not weird. What you're feeling is normal. And you got to have those people in your lives to go, hey, take a breath. It's okay.
Yeah.
I understand how you feel and you're not alone.
All right. I got 2 more questions for you.
All right.
The second one is the big one we ask everybody. Yep. But the first one is, there's probably people listening to this podcast going, well, that's great. It's great to hear from Andy and everything, but I'm not an artist, so I'm not really connecting in some ways with this. And yet at the same time, every one of us are communicators, especially if you're in a business or, if you're ever in front of an audience of any kind, no matter how big or small. Let's go beyond just thinking in terms of music and just give our audience just a little insight and wisdom with all your years on a platform about just how to communicate to an audience of any side from a platform, to become a better communicator so that you're getting the message, whatever it might be. Maybe it's inspirational. Maybe it's just talking to, kids in a classroom, whatever it might be. What, if you don't mind, just take 1 or 2 minutes and just give us some good nuggets of how to best communicate to an audience.
Well, I believe with everything, there's 2 sides to a coin, right? There's, with anything you want to learn how to do well, there's a discipline to it. You have to put yourself through some disciplines and get good at your voice, your delivery, whatever that is, the way you carry yourself on stage. There's a discipline to that. On the other side, there's an authenticity. Like there's only one you, and you're unique, and you have a unique story. Even though it might be similar to other people, it's unique. And so, one of the things that I think you have to learn how to do, And sometimes it takes a long time to do this. You're not going to necessarily get this at 18 or 22 or even 30. It might be later in your life. But the things you have to learn how to do, you have to learn how to carry yourself and be confident, right? And that comes through personal discipline, working on your voice, working on what you're going to say, being confident in who you are. But then be free to be yourself. And that's one of the things I try to teach worship pastors a lot is be good off the stage in your discipline. Rehearse. Get good at what you do. But when you get on stage, then relax. Just be who you are in Christ. And share your story. Don't be afraid to talk about what you've been through, the things that you see and how you see them. Don't feel like you've got to fit in somebody else's box. I was just walking through this with a worship pastor the other day who is frustrated, and honestly his senior staff is a little frustrated with him too, that he just feels kind of robotic. He's trying to do everything they're wanting him to do on stage. And he feels like he's doing it, but it doesn't feel right. And I'm like, well, then you got to be yourself. People want to know who you are. They want to connect with you. They don't want to connect with a list of disciplines, right? They don't want to see you like reading off a prompter. Throw the prompter out. Don't be afraid to make a mistake. I think that's a big deal that we don't want to embrace, but be okay making a mistake. It means you're human. That's one of the things that freed me years and years and years ago was I don't care if I mess up because I'm human and I'm going to miss a lyric. I'm going to be out of tune sometimes. I'm going to crack sometimes. Why
did you laugh at that?
Why y'all looking at me?
I'm going to make a mistake sometimes, but that's the beauty of life, right? It means we're human. But if I have the discipline to continue to understand that I'm really good at this and I'm well prepared, well, then that makes such a great combination of he knows what he's doing. I'm confident. The person needs to be confident in you on stage. They need to listen to you. The first note comes out of their mouth and go, okay, he's prepared. Okay, he's good. And then, but then they also have to go, I like him. I like her. Oh, wow.
Right.
They kind of went off script
He's
there.
real.
It feels like they're in the moment with me.
Yeah.
And they're speaking out of their heart. So those two things have to go together. You can have one without the other, but you'll never really move into the place where God wants you. If you're just all discipline but no heart, it's not going to work. If you're all heart but no discipline, it's not going to work. And it's the two coming together. You have to have the two coming together.
That's beautiful. Great answer. Andy, I know we got to let you go. One more minute.
Okay.
Here's the question.
Okay.
Would you like to ask it, Adam?
Yeah.
Sure.
Please.
All right.
So with everything that you've done in your career, if you were not doing what you do, what is the one thing you feel like you were made to do outside of what you're currently
know.
And
doing?
if money's not an object,
Oh,
time
money's
was
not
an
an object.
And,
Okay, sorry, I
and
forgot
we're
the
guaranteed
qualifiers.
success.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't know how to answer that
don't
question.
toss it to me if I'm going to forget everything,
This is-
guys.
okay.
Obviously. Yeah.
Here's why I can't answer that question. Because in 1988, I was riding the Truth Bus, and I was praying, and this is before cell phones and laptops. I had a Sony Walkman and cheap
Al Gore had
headphones
not
and my
invented the
Bible.
internet yet.
Yeah, that was it. And so I'm listening to music, reading my Bible, looking out the window, and I had this memory of being in like central Pennsylvania in the fall. Think Punxsutawney and Punxsutawney Phil, and that just beautiful watching the scenery go by. And I heard the Lord speak to this to me. He said, "Don't worry about losing your voice. Just sing. That's what you'll do from me to the day you die. That's how you put food on the table. That's how you provide for your family. Just sing." And it allowed me to drop all these other scenarios, like, okay, what happens if your career doesn't make it? What happens if you lose your voice? Felt like I had this promise from God, just like, no, just keep going. Just keep going in this. I'll take care of you. And so I've never really thought about another career. I haven't. I don't know what I would do. Now, if I could play golf for a living, then I would do that.
You guys
I
are
would
cut from the same
totally do
cloth.
that.
Yeah, buddy. That's kind of like my big passion outside of me. Actually,
No.
music's not
It's-
really a passion.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
You put more time into golf
Okay, we don't get all. That's too deep here.
If I had the
True.
discipline to practice music as much as I try in my golf game, I might be a better singer. I love it, Andy. Well, you know what? That's pretty cool. When you have that kind of calling, you don't really have another choice. This is it. This is what you do.
Yeah. I don't have a
And
plan
I think
B.
it's awesome.
I never have.
And you're living your dream, aren't you?
You're all in.
That's right. Like God keeps opening doors. God keeps saying, all right, you want to do this? Yeah, that works. That fits right into the calling from 1988.
Well, and as you're faithful, he opens more doors.
Mhm.
That's right.
Where there is faith.
There is a voice
What's the
calling.
next line, Andy?
There's a voice calling.
Hello. I mean, come on. Is that a perfect little, we just put the icing on?
Wow, you guys are pros.
Yeah, it's like we've done this before, Andy. Hey, we love you, man. Thanks for
Love you
coming on.
guys. Thank you.
Yes.
Tell Steve Green we all said hello.
I'll do it.
Thanks, Andy.
See you, man.
See ya.
All right.